Well, hello, stargazers. Two things. One, if you're a MAGA person, there's nothing on this channel for you. You can keep on moving on, little doggy. There's nothing here for you. And the other is if you're looking for some kind of reassurance, or confirmation, or some like miracle that's going to save us all, that can only be found in the chart. I don't have that either. I don't have that either. So this chart is for February. We're going to look at the aspects this month. We're looking at Trump's chart along with it, with some discussion. And also, this is very USA-centric because this is where I'm living here in the middle of the fright zone. So today is February 2nd. He has just announced tariffs on our allies, on our friends, and apparently he is forcing the issue of tariffs on Canada because he is this is in writing from him. He is absolutely adamant and insistent that Canada capitulate to us and become the 51st state of the United States. You can't make this stuff up. And of course, he's put the tariffs on China and Mexico, and I don't know where we're supposed to be getting our food now. I guess we're supposed to grow it on little space pods on Mars. Musk better hurry up. So in any event, and of course China, Canada, and Mexico have retaliated with their own tariffs, which no one is faulting them for. No one is faulting them for, because we have an imbecile for a president. And also, I just want to point out here really quickly, okay, that say what you will, we can't make Trump completely responsible for all of this. We really can't, because at the end of the day, he's a moron. Like, he's literally got the intellect of a 9-year-old. And if you haven't figured that out, well, there's nothing anybody's going to tell you. And I got a bridge in Brooklyn I can sell you. The challenge is that he is flanked and surrounded by people who are very, very smart and very, very invested in a white supremacist agenda, and also, the plantation slavery model of business. So he's taking his instruction, and his crash course in civics from these people around him. Stephen Miller, for example, Elon Musk, Leo Leonard, I think his name is. There's a whole bunch of them that are responsible for this, and literally explain to him what he needs to do next, because he doesn't even understand civics. Okay, so there's only so much you can assign to him and make him responsible for. At the end of the day, he's the front man for the band. He is the David Lee Roth for the Van Halen phenomenon. He has his talents. He's very charismatic. People love to follow him, but when it comes right down to it, the real talent and the real brains is behind him, where you're not paying attention, right? It's the band behind him that he's the front man for. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to hold it together. I just ate cereal for dinner because I needed the sugar and the dopamine rush. So, how's your day going? So, and then I broke down and did the charts. I'm like, I can't stay anymore. Let me take a look, right? Okay, so the tariffs, he just pushed the tariffs through on our allies because oh my God. Anyway, and they retaliated, and all of this occurred. Today is the 2nd. All of this has occurred within the last 24 hours. And of course, everybody was running around like their hair's on fire, which they should have been doing long before now. Now, as we speak, Venus will enter Aries and Jupiter will station direct on the 4th. So we're not there yet. Now, you would think with Jupiter stationing direct that something good should come of this, or anything done right now. But here's a little secret for you. As much as we would like to, squeeze and stretch and manipulate charts and interpretations of these planetary symbolisms, to suit our own devices, the reality is we have to deal with these planets in the positions that they're in, okay, because they're telling a story, whether we like the story or not. So even though Venus will enter Aries and Jupiter will station direct on the same day, on the 4th, Okay. The reality is these tariffs have come down on February 1st. Um, before this has happened. This means that Venus is in the last degrees of Pisces. It is conjunct Neptune, which is in the last degrees of Pisces. And that symbolizes or describes a scenario where something is being done literally in a desperate Hail Mary pass, as if this were the last window of opportunity to push something through. I don't know why this would apply here. So maybe one of the big experts will tell us later why the timing was so important. Because, I mean, why wouldn't they be able to push these tariffs through later? Why now? But apparently, it was apparently very time sensitive, and this was a Hail Mary pass and a desperate attempt to try and push it through right now, because this seemed to be the only right time. The other thing is that with Venus in the last degrees of Pisces, conjuncting Neptune in the last degrees of Pisces, and listen, I'm a huge cheerleader for Neptune. You guys know that. But in this particular case, all of the bad stuff we typically hear about Neptune may be more visible than usual. So this suggests a situation where it's literally almost a fever dream, right? This stuff that's happening, tariffs, is being fueled by this delusional fever dream that somebody's had that's not grounded in reality. If this were a situation where they were doing something, and this is a big if, right? If they were doing something that were more specific to charity, religion, spirituality, art, things that are of the higher octave or higher vibration of Neptune and Pisces, there may have been a better chance of success, right? Or certainly being more adequately supported by the universe. But this is all money. Money and economics is very Taurus, Pluto, the Saturn. So with Venus and Neptune like this, and those last degrees and sign of Pisces, blah, 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 this suggests that literally there's a whole lot of delulu happening here. That made this also very, I don't know why that's important, but being time sensitive. It's like there was this one little window of opportunity they had to push this through in their minds. And it had to be right now. Now, the thing about it is, this almost sounds like I'm about to say, but when Venus and Jupiter come together in Aries, or, in Aries and Jupiter goes direct, everything will be fine again. It won't. That will not change anything. It's a whole other set of things. So really quickly, for those of you who have anything to launch over the next couple of days, wait until after the 4th. Don't do it right now. Literally, it's guaranteed to not go the direction you're thinking. You're not seeing anything clearly. Again, fever dream fueled delusions. And there's a high rate of humiliating failure associated with things that are attempted to be launched right now. And the tariffs are definitely on the list of things that are going to be, if it fails, and it will be humiliating in the nth degree, the utmost absolute degree. Now, when Venus goes into Aries, Jupiter goes direct on the 4th, what we may see, I'm not sure what this is describing, because it's not just the tariffs. There's something else attached to this. We've got more coming literally on the heels of this. So I don't know what this is. It's kind of like the things where you need to, in the military, they send the Marines in first, right? And there's a thing. They always send the Marines in first. And the whole point of sending the Marines in is they're the toughest and the baddest, and they're literally your ground force grunt crew that goes in and waylays the area and clears out and makes an opening for the rest of the military personnel to get through, right? So they're like the battering ram that goes in and breaks the door down so everybody behind them can get in. And this is kind of what this looks like with these tariffs. The tariff is the battering ram or the Marines being sent in to clear the area and make space for other things to come, like flooding through behind it. I don't know what that's about. We're going to find out soon enough. So that's what I have to say about that. There is no saving grace here. There's no saving grace. There's more to come, and whatever's coming behind these tariffs is even worse, as if that were possible. Okay, I know, because you needed something to be able to sleep at night with, right? Okay, um, so I'm looking at this chart and I'm like, okay, all right, I don't even want to do this. The sound of that man's voice, the sight of his hemorrhoid face, literally just the mention of his name just turns my stomach. So I didn't want to do this, but there's no other way to make sense of what's going on without looking at his chart too. So here we are. Okay. Now, what's notable right now is that Mars, which is retrograde and in Cancer, we know this is a very weak position for Mars, which is a saving grace right now. We need Mars, which rules military, warlike action, aggression, competition, like hostility, tempers, anger. We need it to be handicapped. We don't need it running full force through the world. Not right now. Not right now. So Mars retrograde in Cancer has actually been a saving grace. But here's what's interesting. Mars has been retrograde in Cancer, and it has been all over his Venus-Saturn conjunction in Cancer. So, if you watch the video we did of his natal chart a while ago, we've talked about that Venus-Saturn in Cancer. So, one, he's got a real issue with women and mom and not feeling loved enough. We also know he's got daddy issues, right? Like he literally, everything in his life is about getting validation and recognition from daddy because he was not daddy's favorite son, not even close. Um, so there's a whole lot of that, but basically he's a woman hater. He takes it out on women. He's angry at his mom for not being there when he thought she should have been. Okay. There's a whole lot of messed up stuff like in his psyche as far as how he deals with women, because everything he understands about dealing with women would have been reinforced as transactional, right? Hence, look at his wives, especially the last one. And I'm not completely sure that Fred, I think it's the father, Fred Sr., did not take Donald around the whorehouses when he was a kid, So I don't know that Donald ever really spent time um, around women in normal capacities, right? So all his relationships that he would have seen and or experienced with women would have been transactional. And given how unbelievably unattractive that man is, um, I can certainly see how a lot of it would have been transactional anyway. Anyway, so that Venus Saturn makes a mean, stingy, selfish, mean, right? Everything is transactional. He's completely opportunistic. He does not like or trust women. He's got a real issue with them. He's got a real issue with them. And Mars has been all over that Venus Saturn conjunction of his in Cancer, which means that at this time, while Mars has been dancing all over that, it literally triggering all of his worst impulses and his insecurities and his hostilities, his bigotry, his whatever it is that threatens his fragile sense of self or his ability to be loved. All of those things were really being, activated recently and will continue to be. Now, Mars is going to be all over that Venus Saturn for a while. Now we're going to get a break, because it will move off of it a little bit as we get towards the end of the month. But we're literally not going to get any kind of reprieve from his worst impulses, and it's just, excuse my language, it's shitty behavior and it's horrible, screwed up attitudes until April. So I don't know what is happening in April, but April should start to bring the hammer down and at least get some semblance of something reining him in. The problem is, like, he can do an awful lot of damage between now and April because he's got a whole lot of enablers around him that want him to do his worst because they're not going to bear the brunt of the blame or the punishment for whatever it is that they encourage him and allow him to do. So do your worst, because we're just going to slip in a few suggestions while you're at it. So listen, while you're kicking so-and-so's butt over there, do me a favor, get this in there too. They're going to be fine, and they know that. So they're going to encourage and enable him. And so watch this space. They're going to encourage and enable him to just live out his worst impulses. So between now and April, we are going to be in a world of hurts. We're going to be in a world of hurts. But the upside is all these mouth breathing MAGA morons and these cowardly racists who can't even come out and admit that they're racist. And that's why they love Trump. Can't even do that. You're so freaking weak. You can't even admit that that's what it's about. They'll be right there in the soup with us. So, FAFO. Like, if this is what it takes for them to figure it out, they're going to figure it out, because Donald Trump doesn't love them either. Anyway, so we have that to look forward to. Okay, now, so this is supposed to be about the month of February. Let's see what else we got going on here, right? Okay, so Saturn is in Pisces. It's still in the mid to late degrees. It's 17 through 20 degrees of Pisces this month. It's Venus, it's not quite to Neptune yet. Venus has moved away from Saturn, which is giving us some relief, if you could call it that. Ouch. Oh my gosh, sorry. Now, Saturn is also in the anticia or the contra anticia of Trump's Chiron. So this is like, I don't know, I mean, how do we know? We don't live at the White House, right? But he's really got a whole lot of mental stuff going on. And triggered, like, all his deepest wounds and insecurities are really being those buttons are being pushed right now. So I'm wondering how much of what we're dealing with is not a result of that. And also Saturn at 17 through 20 will also square his Uranus, which rules the 7th house. And it will be moving into a T-square with his full moon in his chart. See, remember, he's got that sun-moon opposition, used car salesman position. So the thing with Saturn in his 7th house, squaring his Uranus. So Uranus rules the 7th house, but depending on what degree you give the ascendant, it's either an exact ruler, which makes it even more prominent because Aquarius is on the 7th house, or it is a secondary ruler in the 7th, because we would have, it would be the 6th house. Ooh, hang on a second. Virgo, Pisces. Oh, so if he's Virgo rising, and I still say he's Virgo rising, that's going to put Aquarius in his 6th house. In his 6th house. It's co-ruler of his 6th, which means that this Saturn squaring Uranus will do one of two things. Either it's going to cleave or separate him from significant partnerships. I don't see Melania leaving him. She's too money grubbing for that. Where's she going to go? She's not going to leave him until she's got somebody else lined up. We know how that works. This is how gold diggers operate. Literally, they have to, the grapevine through life. So she can't leave Donald until she has a benefactor to go to. Just saying. So I don't see her leaving anytime soon. And I still say he's a Virgo rising, which is going to put Aquarius in the 6th house of physical health. So Saturn coming into a T-square with that sun-moon opposition in his chart, but first hitting that Uranus, also in that 10th, I would look for some type of physical health issue, physical and or health. I mean, it's the same thing, right? To occur this month. I would look for that to occur this month. So let's see what happens. And honestly, this is my first time I've looked at the chart. Like, I'm doing it as I'm talking to you, because I don't want to give this man any more airtime or real estate in my head than I have to. So there's that. So either it's going to be a major break with a partnership, or it's going to be physical health. Now, there are some people who would say that Musk, God, the man looks like a toad. is considered a big partnership. But I don't know that Musk any more than Putin is a partner for Trump as much as Trump is a useful idiot for them. They don't view him as a partner, because in order for you to view someone as a partner, you have to view them as your equal. And I guarantee you, neither Putin nor Musk view Trump as their equal at any level. The man's got the brain of a 9-year-old. He's a useful idiot. Okay, so anyway, okay, so as we go through the month of February, listen, it's just more of what I've been telling you guys. Like, we knew this. I told you so, and what did you think was going to happen? The two sentences we're not allowed to say out loud. So I don't have any new stuff to give you for the month of February, except, like, buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to get through this, and so I listen, I'm struggling here. I'm really struggling. I had cereal for dinner because I needed the sugar rush for the dopamine. Because anybody with half a brain who's been paying attention, that we're terrified. We're all terrified. And listen, if you're one of these worthless trash human beings, like, oh, I don't follow politics, I don't watch the news, but I voted for Trump because I think he blah 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 blah. Like, just stop already, right? Like, so if you see anybody who's smiling and it's calm and they're like, oh, this is great, Daddy's going to take care of us, you're dealing with a mouth breathing moron. Walk away as quickly as possible. They have literally nothing useful to say. It's like people who don't, it's like people who couldn't get through math and science in high school, talking about how to build a rocket ship. I'm sorry. And how would you know this? Because you slept through all of the information before this point. Just saying. So February is just going to be what it is. Now, on a personal level, I will give you guys some useful stuff on a personal level, right? On a personal level, what I will say is that once Venus goes into Aries, for those of you who are looking for inspiration and entertainment and connection, friendly connections with other people, love in the time of cholera, this is going to be actually a good month for us to really get deep in our feelings, and to rediscover, the more hopeful, optimistic, confident, innocent side of love and romance and friendship and all that good sort of stuff. So there's lots of genuine, sincere heart stuff that we will have an easier time accessing this month. So if you find yourself in your feelings, and those are good feelings, powerful feelings, like, let yourself have those feelings. You're going to get a lot more out of it than you think. And maybe part of what's going on this month is very much about learning to communicate, right? To be able to tell people in the here and now that you love them, because might not be here tomorrow. So that's what we got for February. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find something good in here. But it's a struggle. I'm not going to lie. It's a struggle. So the other thing I want you guys to watch is the following dates, right? So we got some juicy ones. So on the 5th, we've got a quarter moon at 16 Taurus. Now in Trump's chart, that's going to hit his Uranus at 17. No, sorry. He's got Uranus at 17 Gemini. I am way ahead of myself. No, scratch that. Scratch that. So we've got a quarter moon at 16 Taurus. Get rid of that. On the 5th, which is just as Venus goes into Aries and Jupiter goes direct. So Uranus is at 23, transiting Uranus is at 23. So it's a bit wide, but still there. So we can expect, so, I'm not going to say shocking, because at this point we're also over stimulated with shock and awe constantly, that like nothing is shocking anymore. It's just bad comedy. So, yes, please go away. The quarter moon on the 5th, at the same time Venus goes into Aries, Jupiter goes direct. It will be at 16 Taurus. And that 16 Taurus, oh, there it is. It's squaring Mercury. Ugh. All right. I'm just saying, like, pack yourself some magnesium, get yourself some of that medicinal marijuana if you've got it. Maybe have a drink, go to bed early. We're not through with this yet. Whatever these tariffs were about, there's something closing in on its heels. Literally right behind it, that's even more like, oh my God, are you kidding me with this? So, because they wanted this window, there was something very sensitive about this time period, that they were pushing this through as an urgent, last minute fever dream fueled sort of thing. Oh God. So the 5th. Once we get past the 5th, then the dust will settle, and we'll have a better sense of what's happening. And we shouldn't have too much more to add to that. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Now, the 12th, we've got a full moon at 24 Leo. Now, this full moon, I'm curious to see what happens. This full moon on the 12th is going to conjunct his Mars, Trump's Mars at 26 Leo. Now, and again, all of this, I suppose, depends on what you're using for an ascendant. I still say, and this is where people get weird because they start doing sloppy astrology, right? So his Mars, no matter what ascendant we have, late Leo or early Virgo, his Mars is in the 12th house. It is not in the ascendant. It is not in the first house. It is in the 12th house. The 12th house has to do with prison, mental institutions, hospitals, nervous breakdowns, God, right? Sacrifice, all of these things. With Mars in the 12th like this, now his Mars receives some good aspects. But this full moon should illuminate, like literally expose whatever secrets this Mars in the 12th house is hiding or holding. Because the 12th house also has to do with the skeletons in our closet. Now, Mars in his chart rules the 4th house, right? The house of endings and foundations. So this could be anything from real estate to family secrets, either his current family or the family he grew up with. And it also has to do with things that shock, or not shock, but basically hold the foundations of his life together. That full moon on his Mars in the 12th house threatens to reveal a whole lot of stuff. Okay. Now, that Mars in his chart also connects to that full moon in his chart, which is also very illuminating or exposing. Some people call it transparency, but in his case, it's just exposing. He's like a flasher running around constantly opening his damn raincoat. Um, please don't be so transparent. So this is what's happening on the 12th. So I'm curious to see what happens on the 12th with him, because whatever this is big and could unfortunately work in his favor, depending on whether you're a fan of his or not. But it's definitely going to reveal a whole lot of stuff that he wasn't necessarily expecting to have revealed. As we move down through the month, we've got a quarter moon at 2 Sag on the 20th. And that quarter moon at 2 Sag is not doing a whole lot of interesting stuff in his chart. But for you guys, the 20th occurs just a scant 3 days before Mars goes direct. So the 20th and through the 23rd, those 3 days will be very, very, very highly energetic days. Mars go direct. There's a whole lot of stuff that will either get untangled and start moving forward at a breakneck speed, or 2 Sag. Yeah, see, Mercury is going to be with Saturn at that time also, sextiling Pluto. Okay, so the quarter moon at 2 Sag will be sextiling Pluto, which should be good. So I'm going to say it's going to be good only in that it's hopefully not going to be, one more roller coaster thrill ride where we're literally, about to get thrown off the ride. So it's a little bit more manageable, I suppose is the way to put it. Whatever's happening is a little bit more manageable than what we've been dealing with. At the same time that this is happening, Mercury will be down close to Saturn, right? Um, like within a couple of degrees of Saturn, both around 20 Pisces. And for Trump, this is absolutely going to be part of that T square. So he's going to have Mercury and Saturn setting up a T square to that sun, that full moon in his chart. This will not be a happy time for him. So he made, I don't see how this is possible given everything we've seen so far. Because literally our Congress and the administration are it literally, and I'm not exaggerating, and this is not hyperbole, but it is filled with a bunch of selfish cowards who clearly have more to hide and are more worried about protecting themselves than actually doing their job or acting with any integrity. So I don't see how anybody's going to hold them accountable to anything. But talking about having a come to Jesus moment, this is with that Mercury Saturn sets out the T square to the full moon in his chart. He's going to have a come to Jesus moment around the 20th. And at the same time, on the 23rd, so within 3 days of this, Mars goes direct across that Venus Saturn conjunction in his chart. So all that mean, misty, and hatefulness, and that toxic cancer that lives in his head, like the worm that was living in RFK's brain. All of this is literally going to be forefront and center around the time of this quarter moon on the 20th. So uh, let's at least have that to look forward to. Let's at least have that to look forward. Maybe the grown-ups will finally enter the room and hold them accountable. So before this happens, we're looking at some physical health issues. I think physical health issues, and some revelations. About some long-held family secrets, or things that have everything to do with foundations of his identity, which in his case would be his money, I suppose, that and his, attraction to young girls, and grown men. He and Marjorie Taylor Greene should get along much more famously than they do. I mean, she is a cuckoldress, and he is absolutely a cuckold. But that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, so that's what we got going on in February. So if you need something to look forward to, there is that. And then, of course, by the time we get down to the 27th, at the end of the month, we'll have a new moon in Pisces, which starts a whole new cycle. But it's not, I mean, compared to everything else that we're dealing with in the month of February, like that new moon's not just going to be kind of a quiet new moon, often considered. So yeah, so that's it. That's my off the cuff, on the fly sort of examination of February and Trump's chart, and the tariffs and the timing of the tariffs. So we'll see. Oof, Lordy, we will see. We will see. And remember, you can think it, but you can't say it, or you can say it, but maybe not out loud or not in the same room. I told you so, and what did you think was going to happen? Going to be my two favorite expressions. So yeah, yay team, because the tariffs, like pushing Canada with these tariffs. In case you didn't get it, it's in writing. It is in writing, my friends. You can go look for it. It literally, he says that his whole thing is he wants Canada to capitulate to us or else tariffs, and become our 51st state. That he wants Canada to give their identity as a nation and become a state of the United States. You, you can't make this stuff up. And it's in writing. He actually wrote it. You can find it on the internet, literally. And these mouth breathing MAGA cheerleaders who don't watch the news, don't listen to experts, don't follow politics. Oh, I don't follow politics. That voted this jackass in the office because, of course, we want a convicted criminal and rapist, right? And white supremacists. I mean, it's all there, right? And, failed businessmen. You know what this country needs is someone to run this country like a business. Don't you think maybe next time you want to add who can run the country like a successful business? And by the way, when has your boss ever done anything for your benefit? I'm just saying. And you want this person making decisions about how your taxes are going to get used? I, I, I. Hang in there. Hang in there. And 35 minutes. Okay. So, and I'm going to leave you this one thought before we go. So, um, one of the things I want to remind you of, right? And this is very important as far as navigating people and situations as we move forward through this month, this year, the next couple of years. A lot of times when we're dealing with people who are particularly unpleasant and particularly aggressive and particularly hateful, you know who I'm talking about. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Um, you'll find that they are driven by the desire for power, right? A classic example are these sociopaths that go into retail stores and beat up the retail employees, or go into restaurants and literally grind down the servers for no reason other than they can get away with it, right? Or at least they think they can get away with it, right? So for them, it's all about power. And here's the thing, like, power is pleasurable. Power feels good. We all love the feeling of power. It feels great, right? But there are some people who are so weak and lacking any meaningful connections in their personal life, and so lacking love, you know, um, or respect or anything else, that they literally have to acquire power in any way they can. Literally everything from driving around in these giant noisy cars or these giant oversized pickup trucks and literally barreling up the back of your car, and honking the horn because you're not moving fast enough for them, right? Because they're in a hurry to get to the stop sign. Or having these giant, literally safety hazard flags flying off the back of their trucks, knowing that at any second, if that thing came loose and landed on somebody's windshield, they could literally cause a 10-car pileup, right? Or these. We know these people. Literally, all you have to do is think about the people in your family, think about your friends, think about people you work with, people that you don't talk to anymore, complete stranger you've had to deal with. You're always going to find that there's these people who are driven by the pursuit of power, and they will take it from other people in any way they can, and typically as aggressively as possible. Okay. And it is exhausting, and honestly, it's like, what can you do, right? Well, here's what you can do, and this is how you fight the power, right? So we can't we can't respond aggressively and violently to them unless we're absolutely backed in a corner. Like, it is literally, that's the least desirable choice and the least effective method of solving a problem. Um, Things that you can do, one is recognize that what they want is power. So, and part of power is attention. Having your attention is power. Look at the MAGA celebrities. They want your attention. The incels online, they want your attention. So everything's about whipping. Some of these astrologers are MAGA cheerleaders. You know who they are, right? Like, their whole thing is about whipping you up, because attention is power. So not giving them your power is half the battle, right? Just pull back of it, as much of it as you can. The other is that real power is in the expression of empathy and compassion. Not everybody on the planet is worthy of your empathy or your compassion. There are people on this planet who are just trash human beings. You're not required to give them your empathy or compassion. But when you do find people who would benefit from just a little bit of kindness, a little bit of empathy, a little bit of compassion, like, reach out and give them a hand, okay? And do it with meaning. Make those connections. Because even though it doesn't seem like you're doing a whole lot, you're doing a tremendous amount by reinforcing meaningful connections with other people, right? By sending out wavelengths of compassion and empathy and kindness, you're reinforcing the good around you and in the world. And trees and mushrooms, they all operate with these underground networks through their roots where they can communicate with each other from miles at a distance. You can't see it on the surface, but the connection is there and they're all communicating with each other, right? No matter how far apart they are. And that's the same with humans. And that's the same with us. So it doesn't have to be obvious. We don't have to make a big show of it, but it's there. So let's reinforce and give our power to the people who deserve it. Okay. And understand that the people who are trying to steal power from you, like demanding your attention, right? Bullying you, intimidating you, making you pay attention to them. These are people who are basically weak, empty, sad. And the only thing they have in life to fill themselves with is power. And even then, other people's power. You don't have to give it to them. Give them what is absolutely minimally necessary and get away from them as quickly as you can. Okay. Same goes for the internet. So if you're listening to soothsayers and astrologers who've been smiling through all of this because it's all an academic exercise, you might want to take a better look at what they all have in common and ask yourself if this is somebody you can really take seriously, if they're not even taking the potential suffering and destruction of your life seriously. I'm just saying. You guys are awesome. Hang in there. Let's see what happens.